how are auto rifle stats normalized in the Crucible? Well, damage and impact may as well be ignored. The important stat is rate of fire. I'm going to summarize what I've been able to learn using a large collection of auto rifles in the Crucible. I may have some weapon mods that subtly alter the results, but the basics I'm pretty sure about. Like Call of Duty, Destiny's rates of fire are frame rate limited. They're rounded up to the next frame. So, given that Destiny runs at 30 frames per second, there are a very limited number of rates of fire we'll actually see in-game. Auto rifles typically only have 3 different rates of fire. A 4th is available with a weapon mod, maybe a 5th. Those are 900, 600, and 450 rounds per minute. The fire slower when ADS mod on a 450 RPM gun will result in a 300 RPM gun when ADS. In the Crucible, damage is tied to rate of fire, which means that time to kill, 100% accuracy, is again based on the rate of fire. And it's obvious that Bungie has tried to normalize these values, but as Call of Duty players know, time to kill values can be somewhat misleading, so we need to talk about this. Matching times to kill and not DPS is one way to try to balance guns. You've got the fast-firing 900 RPM guns like the bronzed Miyamoto D, still on pace with the 600 RPM guns like the Shingun C and Silver Hushtwin D, keeping up with the 450 RPM guns like the Galahad E, the Sidonia AR-3, and the Kostov 7G02. Yes, that's the level 1 auto rifle everybody gets when they start the game. It's just as competitive with the other auto rifles in time to kill. Way down at 300 RPM, my only example is my exotic auto rifle, the Suros Regime, when ADS, but again, it's got the same time to kill, based on 100% accuracy, as all the other auto rifles. But that really is the tricky thing about time to kill. It assumes 100% accuracy. If you miss one shot, you're going to get a lot longer penalty in your actual time to kill if you have a slow firing auto rifle versus something that fires quickly. And so this whole accuracy thing comes into play. And not just how accurate is the gun, but how accurate is the player using it. But of course we want to stick to talking about just the guns, and the slower firing auto rifles tend to be more stable than the faster firing ones, making them easier to use at longer ranges and easier to get consistent headshots with. It's great going for headshots, but if you start missing altogether, it's not really worth it, is it? Slower firing auto rifles also tend to have more damage in each magazine, meaning you could potentially kill more enemies between reloads. Though the 900 RPM guns tend to have very large magazines and kind of flip this relationship on its head. Still, the 450s tend to have more damage in each mag than the 600 RPM guns. In the end, time to kill isn't everything, I have to stress that. For example, let's compare two nearly identical guns, the Sidonia AR-3, my longtime go-to in the Crucible, and the Galahad E. Now the Galahad is a rare Rec 20 instead of an uncommon Rec 18, but I can barely tell the difference other than the obvious 2 more rounds in the magazine of the Galahad. There are some slight differences in the optics. I can't really tell though. They say they do things, I'm not sure. For example, the range stat, I hardly ever find myself getting to the point where the damage starts to drop off due to range. It's just not something I pay attention to with auto rifles. But to satisfy curiosity, here is the only example of damage drop off due to range that I've been able to see while I'm using a Galahad with one of the longer zoom scopes. This is where the damage starts to drop off due to range, but at this point stability is already the larger question, and so it's really not something that bothers me. Looking at the stat bars, the Galahad is a tiny bit less stable, but I really can't tell. It's one of those things that maybe it'll make a difference, maybe it won't. To get a real comparison here, we need to go back to the level 1 assault rifle, the Kostov 7G02. It's another 450 RPM gun, but it has 5 fewer rounds than the Galahad, and the stat bar shows the stability being noticeably worse, and I do start to feel that. But maybe that's just in my head, I'm not sure. What you should take away from this is that if you find a gun that you like and is working for you, ignore the stats on the comparisons and just use it. If it's working for you, use it. Don't worry about what the bars tell you. That's all I can really recommend. I think a lot of it comes down to the random mods on the weapons. If you've got a gun that has the mods that you like, but you find another one that just says it's 1 rec level higher and does a tiny bit more damage but has mods you don't like, there's no reason to use the higher leveled weapon that you don't like the mods on in the Crucible. It's going to be worse for you. That just about wraps things up. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope the information was useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.